Hello, my name is Yu Dao. I am a monk here at SokukoJi. If you are inspired by these talks and these teachings, please consider joining us for our other forums, online or in person, and also consider helping us financially. We could use your support if you are able. Thank you.
Tonight, I wanted to talk about passive aggressive. So Merry Christmas. This is my gift to you to pick such a topic. What I wanted to do tonight is to help us just become more aware of this behavior. It's very common human behavior. So what does it mean? What does passive aggressive mean? Let's all kind of agree to a definition. Passive aggressive usually refers to behavior that it's kind of a manipulative behavior. It's where we don't want to ask directly for what we want, but we're going to try to bring it about by some sort of manipulation. Usually it is the silent treatment, sarcasm, any procrastination. We'll go over that. Maybe we'll do that right now. So going to kind of the psychiatry definition, it is indirectly expressing anger, resentment, because we haven't actually asked for what it is that we want or need. We can't ask for it directly. And usually what we do instead is something out of resentment. So it can be procrastination, sulking, stubbornness, sabotaging, making excuses, sarcasm, backhanded compliments. And there are 6 traits to passive aggressive behavior. The very first one, and is a common one, is indirect anger. We're angry at someone. So for an example might be, we're at work and we've been passed over for a promotion. We thought for sure it should be ours. We've been there for 3 years. We weren't even asked. No one even talked to us about it. And so we are angry. We are resentful that someone didn't come and say something to us. What we overlook frequently is that we could have gone and asked for that promotion. We could have gone and said, wait a minute, I've been here for 3 years. Or we could have said what we really want out of that career or that job. We're looking at a promotion. If there is going to be a promotion, please let me know about it and what I can do to get that promotion. So that's something that's quite straightforward in the business world. Indirect anger. I grew up with the silent treatment. It was either explosion or silent treatment. So no one asked, no one said anything about what was actually happening, but somehow you knew. So passive aggressive behavior is all about knowing that you're supposed to know, but no one's actually said anything. No one's communicating. So the indirect anger that I was subjected to is just that it would be just completely silent. And then if you were asking for something to be passed to you at the kitchen table, it would be passed to you abruptly. It might be sitting there and everybody's silent and the meat is being cut on the plate really strongly. I mean, it's being torn apart. So there was all this indirect expression of anger, but no one was actually talking about what was actually going on. Sarcasm and backhanded compliments is another common trait. Must be nice to have it so easy. would be an example of that. Must be nice to, have the situation that you have. And it's the words, but it's also the tone that is shared with. So sarcasm, and you're complimented, but it's not really a compliment. Procrastination and excuse making. This happens a lot in business, or jobs where you just slow down on the job. You're not going to go at the usual pace. So if you can get the flavor here, we're trying to communicate how we're actually feeling. We're angry. But the challenge is that we haven't really taken responsibility to communicate what it is that we're wanting. So why don't we communicate? We might not communicate because of our pride. I shouldn't have to ask for them to acknowledge me. They should just see that I just did X, Y, and Z. I just cleaned the entire foyer and no one noticed. That type of thing. I cleaned the altars and no one said anything. I refreshed all the ikebana and no one said anything. I went and I bought these flowers purposefully. They were a nicer flower and no one said anything. And so that's okay to be angry, but what is our responsibility in that situation? Could we say to someone, you know what, I put in some extra effort here and I would really appreciate it if you recognize that. In the temple here, we have a Samu thread that we can post what we've done on the Samu thread. And that may alleviate some of the resentment that we've done a lot of work. Yunkai will come in and she'll spend quite a bit of time tackling a deep cleaning project and she'll put it on the Samu thread. But with Yunkai, we know that she's done something. It's very obvious that it's clean, but does she feel resentment? I never feel that from her, but that is a perfect example. Same thing with Miyoka with the ikebana. I never feel resentment, but that is where we could actually be passive aggressive. We're not asking for acknowledgement. We're not asking for whatever it is we need. We may not need acknowledgement. I don't sense that, in some of these Samu tasks that anyone actually needs acknowledgement. But if we did, we need to take responsibility for asking. And it is pride. I shouldn't have to ask. Shame. I'm not, I am not worthy, I guess, to ask. Fear of retribution. If I did say something, this is usually interpersonal communications. If I did say something, I think that I may end up having to pay for that. That person won't forgive me. They'll treat me poorly. The Sangam, the group of community that I'm living with, might think less of me. So we fear retribution. So this passive aggressive behavior is really looking at how we want to manipulate what is actually happening without actually asking for what we need. And so that can be at kind of a gross level. That in the therapeutic world, there can be a personality disorder. There's no longer a personality disorder that says it's passive aggressive personality disorder, but those same traits are under something like other personality disorder, a more general statement, and those traits are under that. So it still can be that bad. What is that bad? It can be something where it really impacts your relationships. It really impacts your work. Those are primarily the two places that it would really show up. But why do I bring it up here? Because I notice it in my own behavior and at a very subtle level. And so I think that's what we're about in this community, is waking up to, becoming more aware of how this ego shows up in very subtle, almost indistinguishable ways. So I'd like to come up with an example of this. I don't know if anyone here has an example in their own life where you are doing something because you want a particular outcome. Tokazan.
So when you are offering to the teacher, to help the teacher, to show devotion, dedication to the teacher, to the teaching, and to the community, the Sangha, is there a way we can more deeply understand what is happening when we're actually offering, say we're offering, feel like we're offering, try to appear like we're offering, yet we're looking for some kind of thank you, some kind of payback, some kind of acknowledgement that we're a good student, that we need to get a credential from it. Is that still devotion? Is that still the spiritual path, looking for results? Thank you.
When we are acting passive aggressively and we have the intention of seeing what this is, but yet we're caught in the illusion, we get sucked into the illusion, we're still on the path. If we still show up on the cushion and with that intention to see what is showing up, if we come to the teacher and express devotion and we express it in all the ways we support financially, the physical space that we're in, whatever the teacher needs, and yet resentment arises, anger arises because we don't get the thank you or whatever that acknowledgement is that we're looking for from the teacher. It's about awareness. So that is exactly where I wanted to go, that none of this is anything to fix. It is something to see. And what for me is so valuable is gives us a chance to see the ego, see how subtle and under the covers it can act or show up. And so one of the things is when you bring up devotion is that we can have a lot of intention to support and show up for Doan in the morning, show up for Doan in the afternoon, facilitate book study, and be over at Karma House doing a form, come back here and set up for audio visual. And it just seems like we're giving and giving and giving. Oh, and by the way, do something over in the shop. So Kazan wants this, bought a table, this table. We have a couple of tables, and cut it in half and make it look nice, enough for the Zendo. All that can really show up as eventually as resentment until we begin to look at it and look at it and look at it. And what we get to do at that point is offer the resentment to our teacher, offer the anger, and be honest. You know what is actually showing up here is anger. I'm being asked to do a lot. And yet I want to. I want to express my devotion. I am completely committed to this path. I am here in a monastery because I want to be with all things. I'm here in this monastery because I feel, I sense, I grok that this is a true teacher. This is a true teaching. And it's here that I can actually begin to see what this actually is. See fundamentally that this is not a solid sense of solid self, that this is an illusion, and yet it's not separate from me. I have a sense that this is where I can do that. And this is the path. And part of that is facing resentment and really looking at passive aggressive behavior, kind of the gross stuff where we are really manipulative, and the really subtle stuff, but always with the intention of seeing it, observing it, not pushing it away, not ignoring it, and allowing yourself to wake up to the passive aggressive thoughts, behaviors that are showing up in my mind stream, and not fix it, not put it on the chopping block as something that is wrong. It's normal, it's common human behavior, and just another opportunity for more information, another chance to see the ego. Any questions? Help me go into this a little bit more and see the more subtle things. Shui Wu.
Shui Wu bowing. How do you distinguish the difference between someone setting a boundary and someone being passive aggressive bowing?
Well, setting a boundary would be taking responsibility. Being resentful of someone who is setting a boundary, or setting your own boundary and being resentful that you have to do that. Can you be a little bit more specific about where that boundary is? Bowing?
Shui Wu bowing. I mean, like, what would it look like if, say, someone had just had enough and they were setting a boundary? Like, how would you distinguish between that looking like passive aggressive behavior versus just having it look like being a boundary that they were setting up now bowing?
Well, it's hard to say that somebody else is engaging in passive aggressive behavior. So if they're setting up a boundary, but yet communicating something other than the boundary, then that might be considered passive aggressive behavior. What is our responsibility is communication. And to say that that is uncomfortable. I'm noticing anger arising. I'm noticing resentment arising, whatever that feeling is arising. If you can actually talk to that person. But the passive aggressive behavior I'm looking at, or I'm trying to talk about, is here in looking at our own resentments, angers, and seeing that there is someone that might be too proud to ask for what they want, too ashamed, thinking that they don't deserve what they may want, but can't put it into words and ask for it because they're too ashamed. They don't feel that they're worth it. Or they might be afraid of retribution. Somebody might get angry with them and they don't want to face that conflict, that anger. Go ahead.
Shui Wu bowing. So are you saying if you communicate something just with your body and not with your words, that would be passive aggressive?
Not necessarily, because it would have to be coupled with anger and resentment. So if you're communicating and you feel like you're communicating clearly, and you can with just your body, not necessarily with words. But if someone's not listening the way you want them to listen, not behaving the way you want them to behave, not doing what you want them to do, then it's your responsibility to communicate in a different way. Because it's your anger, right? It's your emotion. It's your need, it's your want. And the person didn't get it with the body language and now needs to get it with direct, but you need to take responsibility for the emotions that are showing up in you. Does that make sense?
I think so. Thank you.
Mhm. Anyone else? This is not an easy topic. I'd be curious, Miyoka, are you ever resentful with all the ikebana that you do? Bowing?
No, come on, no. I enjoy it. Yeah, not in that area. I'm sure I have other resentments, but not that.
I have a question for Mioka. When you are complimented, which frequently happens, does it puff you up? How do you handle compliments? Speak.
I mean, sometimes it puffs me up and
Okay.
sometimes it doesn't. And I don't know what it is in the situation usually that does that. Unless maybe I am particular or I did attempt something in a particular way that I'm very satisfied with, and maybe somebody doesn't recognize it. Possibly, yeah, I may have some resentment, but rarely do I feel like there's like a direct that might show up later more than it would in the moment. Like I don't feel like I'm getting, yeah, I don't know. The timing of it is different.
And in that instance, the resentment is, or anger is okay, right? It's when we then have a behavior that says, all right, I'll show them. I won't do ikebana, or I'll let that one there rot. Or something like that. That's the passive aggressiveness. When we have an emotion and we're not going to take responsibility for it, instead we're going to act out of it and be indirect with our communication. Indirectly communicate that, well, I'll show you.
So I don't particularly want to go into stories about the negativity that's happened in the last year or so here, but it might be a good area to ask you what your perception is of any the passive aggressiveness of not only people who have left, but possibly of this teacher. Any passive aggressiveness that you've seen, could you say something about that? It certainly shows up for me.
I think there's quite a bit of passive aggressive behavior that has been exhibited by the students who have left. It's hard to though judge that, but what we do know is that they were completely committed here and then all of a sudden left and then disparaged the community and the teacher. And so what that indicates is that they were not communicating here. They were not taking responsibility for the discomfort, the anger, the resentment that was showing up for them, and didn't communicate about it until they actually left. That's a pretty severe communication to break connection with a community before you speak up about it. Now, in some of those cases, I think people felt that they were communicating, but the institution, the community couldn't act quick enough, and that they didn't have the patience to work with us as a community. And that is a tough thing. Not everybody is built to have that stick-to-itiveness, patience to bring a whole group of people along with them. Be in communication with a whole group of people. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Milk bowing. How do we say no so that we don't become passive aggressive later because we did something we didn't want to do and we're too afraid to say no?
It's a very good question. When you bring that up, I have a picture in my mind of my grandma, my dad's mom, and she's coming into the like the holiday table. I think it was like a Thanksgiving, and she has this big platter of with a turkey on it, and she is mad as hell. Oh my gosh, it was just, she wasn't saying anything, but she was so angry and plops that turkey down, that big platter with a huge turkey on it. And so what you're saying is, how do we take responsibility for that, what is actually showing up for us? Yes, I want to say no, but I have to put on this Thanksgiving meal because I'm the matriarch of the family. It's my responsibility. But where in that whole stream of things could she have spoken up or asked for help? Or, plopping that turkey down, she could have said, all right, obviously things didn't go so well. I think we need a prayer, and a specific kind of prayer, not just the usual prayer. Come Lord Jesus, be our guest. And then we had come your Jesus, Zion Zergast, and Zegadians, Digab, and Didu, and Spishiritas, Amen. I have no idea well, I do know what that means. But,
Is that German?
yeah.
Yeah.
She was very,
Yeah.
she was very German. Yeah. So it is humor, seeing the spaciousness, all the things that SokukoJi has taught us, but it's not easy. And to me, that's what I want to bring out. I see that in a more subtle way, in the way I approach things, is that I can have resentment, and it can affect my behavior. I wish I would have written down some of the examples that I have of just lately, but it's like, well, at there was a meeting that we just had, and I am feeling like, well, I guess I don't need to really do X, Y, and Z because I'm not being seen or heard. So, just seeing that. I know Erlam knows what I'm talking about, and maybe SokukoJi does too, but I won't air my dirty laundry, the community dirty laundry. Unless you want to know. There's just a few of us here. All right, so anything else? Any other questions? We definitely have time, but it's
Going, when you talk about that this is something that we don't have to fix, for me, I still struggle with when I see something like that about myself and I don't like it, of course, I want to fix it. So I'm grappling with those two concepts of that need and desire of wanting to fix it, but also just observing the not having to fix it part. I guess I don't know exactly like how to deal with that feeling of like, I want to fix it.
I think you're describing two different things that are showing up. The actual frustration with the behavior, don't like to see this coming out of me, and then wanting it to go away, wanting it to be addressed in some way. And both of those things are showing up. And so what is the teaching? Be with what shows up. So we get to be with that desire to fix things. And if that's the more powerful emotion that is showing up right now, that desire to fix, I think you are definitely a fixer. You fix a lot of things for us. And what a great skill and energy. And I think that points to what SokukoJi often shows us, is that there is no such thing as good or bad. There's just something to see. So all that fixing, you and me are both built out of that same cloth. We see something, we know exactly what needs to be done, and we do it. And we want to do that same thing when we see stuff that we don't like, behaviors, thoughts in ourselves. It's just automatic. And to me, this passive aggressive behavior is an automatic habitual behavior that needs to be seen. Okay, we get to maybe end a little early today. We have far fewer people, less questions, and a tough topic, but we have to have one question from Erlam.
Go ahead.
Prolonged bowing. If it's about the awareness, why pick out something like passive aggressive? Like, what's important about that?
I don't think there's anything in particular that's important about it. It's just one more thing that we can look at. If we haven't looked in that direction, I'm bringing it into our awareness. But there's nothing special about that, 1 out of 20 different behaviors that can help us see that the control we're looking for, a place where we are not taking responsibility, a place where our ego has the upper hand. So if it works for us, if there's anything for us to see there, great. If not, move on to behavior number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But I bring it to the table because it's definitely, for me, where I can see the ego very clearly showing up in a very subtle way. And I think I might need to use the word very one more time. Anybody? SokukoJi.
No.
Oh, Mioka.
Milka bowing. I was just thinking about like cordial greetings and behavior in our day-to-day life, and how there can be a lot of passive aggressiveness in that, and like, hello, I'm fine, all the intonation behind what's said seems to be in that same vein. Have you any examples of that?
I think you've given us a very good example. I can hear, you show up at work and you have those kinds of exchanges. So what do you get to do? You get to listen to how that plays internally. Listen to what you feel is perceived and how you respond to that. And you get to see if you're anything is triggered within you. And if there is someone that is being triggered, if there is someone that doesn't like that intonation.
Milk bowing, yeah, and I think it can be very, when you're running into somebody, you have no idea who they talked to, the last 5 people they talked to, and what those interactions were, and whether that carries over into how they are when they face you. And yeah, it seems very like, if anything shows up in that, it seems like it's very much my deal to deal with. it's not about that other person, even though it might look like they're passive aggressive or something. I really have no idea. So yeah, how, and then what, I guess my question is when, you know, in specific situations, especially with family or work situations, there's like a certain kind of an expectation of how you act and greet and interact with people, either, well, just coworkers, let's say, in general. So when is it appropriate to follow the typical normal behavior in this culture as far as talking to someone, and when is it passive aggressive to do that or not do that? It's a very interesting area.
It is. Yeah, if you're going in and you're angry that you have to be culturally correct or socially correct, and there's anger that's showing up, or resentment that is showing up, that there's this, you're feeling withdrawn, and you might be dealing with something else, and yet you have to be socially, to show up socially, or the expectations are for you to show up socially a certain way. So again, it's about being responsible for what is showing up here. And if you behave, if you follow through and it makes you even angrier, then that might be passive aggressive. But it's about what's showing up here. And then I'm also pointing out that is an opportunity for you to see that separateness. They did this, they said this, or they expect this from me because I'm in this social dynamic. Perfect opportunity to see this, the ego, the sense of self that feels justified, hurt.
Yoke bowing, what is responsibility as we study it here in that situation?
Well, SokukoJi says responsibility is the ability to respond. For me, it's seeing that whatever arises, whatever I sense, is in here. So if there's nothing, no one to blame, no one to praise. We have the teaching of dependent origination. So whatever's showing up in here or out there, again, has no, I don't need to take it personally, but I can have the opportunity to see, to take it personally.
Yoke bowing, would you say there's no one to passive aggress towards
But
in the first place?
definitely, but passive aggressive is part of the illusion. That's one of the ways we engage in the illusion. One of the behaviors that, out of receiving whatever is showing up, we produce on top of it. We engage in that, in the illusion, and then produce out of what we're feeling, we're being owed. SokukoJi.
Would you say that there is some kind of a satisfaction or payoff or possibly protection that shows up that one could become with what you're referring to as passive aggressive kind of reactivity that could show up as some kind of habituation or even addiction to that kind of thing, where you continually do it that way, you continue to slam the fork down on the table or something, and that gives you a little bit of relief. Would you say something about your understanding of that and how that applies to not only your expression of it as a therapist, but your understanding of it as a Buddhist monk who is as an awareness practice?
Well, the discomfort, the emotion that we don't like, the resentment, the anger, the disappointment, whatever is showing up, we want to blame. And so that takes us away immediately from any responsibility for the emotion that is actually showing up for us. So if it is resentment or anger, that's an uncomfortable feeling. We don't want that. So we can skip over that emotion, ignore that emotion, ignore what is actually showing up, and focus on that person is to blame. So therefore, I'm going to show them by not making dinner for them, or burning the potatoes, or whatever the behavior is. So there is a payoff in that we're avoiding an uncomfortable feeling. There's a payoff in that we get revenge. There's an element of revenge there in resentment. And then habituation would be, in the therapeutic terms, that would be where that's a personality disorder. So for most of us, it's a behavior. But if it becomes a habituation, something that actually we do to the point where we are having difficulty in our relationships, can't have an intimate relationship, or we can't keep a job because of it, then it becomes in therapeutic terms, a disorder.
Thank you.
Deb.
Deb Bowing, is it ever useful in these dynamics that you're speaking about with the passive aggressive to just turn towards the teaching that I've heard from Sokuzan for many times, to mind your own business? Bowing?
Yes, I think so. Whatever would show up for you to help you create some space, some objectivity, to see that you don't have to take something personally. But again, you look at, are you fixing it? Are you getting a credential? And that's the piece where I'm really interested in, is that ego, building that ego, or solidifying that ego, or getting that ego bump, like Sokuzan was just talking about. So yes, if you can include humor, like Miyoko was saying, or include like a Tisha's point, like you were just mentioning there, mind your own business, Sokuzan saying. Bottom line, it's always about awareness, right? I haven't said that yet today in this talk, but it's not about fixing, it's about awareness. And if we can be aware of a Sokuzan saying and not leave what is actually showing up, double points.
Thank you, Deb Bowing, and especially thank you for this talk tonight on Christmas Eve, where I think some of us, I know for me, reflecting on family systems, mine of which is always, the foundation has always been passive aggressive behavior. So this is wonderful for me. Thank you, Deb Bowing.
Thank you, Deb. I appreciate hearing that, because I was debating on what to bring on a Christmas Eve night. And I have nothing.
So
Nothing
why
in the-
did you select this?
And nothing in the present category. I'm all about the challenges in life, right, guys?
Right.
So thank you, Deb. All right, Tuguan, you're last.
Duguan Bowing, thank you for this talk. It's been very helpful. No questions right now, but very helpful.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I love you all.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
Love to everybody. Thank you, everyone. We will dedicate the merit on this Christmas Eve night. Thank you. Thank you.